Entertain a motion to adopt those minutes.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Commissioner Cameron, Commissioner Moore, you want to second that?
Yes.
All right, and then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, moving along to item number 7, under new business. The first item of new business is to take up resolution number 180313 of the Town of Lake Lure Marine Commission amending the lake use regulations. Suggested motion is to adopt those amendments to the regulations. Is there any discussion before we get into the motion? Any changes? We've all had a chance to see that.
I have one question, Mr. Mayor, for Dean, because I know you and I had talked about this a couple months ago, or maybe longer, under the Section 2 portion of the amendment, which is going to be 4.01K. Where we're amending that last paragraph of that section. You added on some information at the end of the paragraph, which is to help maintain an accurate account of the number of commercial boats being permitted. All applicants who apply for or approve for commercial boats to be permitted are required to purchase permits for all boats that were applied for and approved by the Marine Commission. My question is more of a technical one. Can we force citizens to pay for permits? If they do their commercial license, they change their mind, they don't buy the permit. I question our authority to force them to pay and require them to pay for the permit.
Well, that'd be something they'd have to look into with the attorney.
Yep.
The reason for that that came up was we've had some commercial businesses in the past and recently in the past that would come into the commercial model and they would buy up more permits than they were going to actually use for the year, which takes up more boats that other businesses can't have. And then they would just say, well, business is not great this year, I'm just not going to buy them. So then that limits other businesses or new businesses being able to get those boats.
I realize what you're trying to do and establish an accountability there, so you can always have an accurate reflection of how many have been applied for, how many are going to be purchased and stuff. But I don't think we can make a citizen pay for something they change their mind, don't want. I don't think we would ever have that kind of authority.
Dean, was this an issue this past year after the rates went up to $1,500?
No, sir. This has kind of been an ongoing process with mainly one. There's been a couple others that have done it, but there's been mainly one that would do it every year. They'd come in and say, give me the maximum all of these, and they never purchased them.
Did they do it this past year with the higher rates at $1,500 up?
I'm not for sure.
You know, yeah, I would think that the rates going up to $1,500 per boat might have,
definitely be a
deterrent.
I wonder if we could put a clause in here that once they're approved, they have to a certain date to purchase the permit, and if they don't purchase the permit, they surrender that boat back to the go back in the pool.
Yeah, well, what was happening here, if I understand correctly, Dean, they were buying the permit anyway, or no? They were just leaving it in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, they just never come and get it.
Right.
Well, I think there's been some times where they have come and gotten them, and with no intention of really buying the boat permit.
Right. Am I getting confused between the two of you?
No, I think we're on the same track here. Well, I see what you're trying to accomplish, and I think that's where we want to go. But I don't, there's no penalty here. If you say, well, they've got to buy it, and then they don't, there's not a, well, we're going to do this. Right. So it may be that if they don't use it, then they would, if they don't use it, they would lose it.
Yeah, because they take that space in the model, and then nobody else can use it.
Right, but it's gone. If they don't use it, then they've lost their priority for that. Like,
right.
I know one for, in fact, last year, the guy, or might have been the year before, he had a vacation rental. He moves into his own house permanently. He bought a commercial license for this coming year, not realizing that he didn't have to have a commercial anymore, but then he never bought the permit after the license was approved under the model. So, and that's what you're trying to avoid, is getting a license approved and not purchasing a permit. I agree with Commissioner Kilby in as much that they lose it after so long if they don't purchase it.
Yeah.
And you know, if you've got a waiting list, then you know, you can consider the next person that was in line on that list, if it's not been one you've been able to
Right.
issue. We're down to having to find ways to come up with hours now.
Right.
Yeah.
And the money they submit with their license, they don't regain, they lose.
Right.
I'm sorry,
They were approved for 4 and got 3, so they did not get one of them.
Okay, so what we want to do now then is make it where that one falls off of the, if we did nothing, Linda, then next year they would still have preference on the 4.
They do every year.
Okay, so what we need to do is drop it so that next year, or adjust the language so that next year, if they don't buy that 4th one, would only have preference on 3. Right? Is that what we're trying to do?
I think so.
Yeah,
Are we talking a specific individual here?
I think there's more than one. I think
I don't
there's,
think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's one more.
I think if
Yeah,
they,
there were several that.
I think they have a deadline. If they don't purchase by the deadline, they forfeit it, and they don't have the right to have more than what they paid for the year before.
They go to the bottom.
Exactly.
Right.
Should we make that like April 1st or April 15th, tax day, and just say if you don't have it by then somebody that was on the waiting list would have an opportunity for that year?
What's the date they have to have, supposed to have them paid by? The permits purchased by, do we have a date?
I don't think there is
No.
one.
Well, then we probably should establish a date.
Yeah.
My opinion, we should establish a date, and if they haven't paid for it by that date, then they forfeit it. We go to the next person in the waiting list, and they don't have that option for next year, for the next year.
So,
I'm
so with
thinking,
all that, I'd like to make a motion that we defer this for reconsideration and rewrite and bring it back next month.
that's
All
fine,
right,
Well, we don't, that'd be next quarter.
next quarter.
Well, okay, next quarter. Do we want to wait that long?
Do you have do you have waiting lists for permits now?
Yes.
Commercial.
We've got 2 coming before you tonight that are asking for us to move hours from less than 10 over to allow their boats to fit.
So if we,
But
We amend this
those
now?
are not contingent upon this.
No,
So-
no, this is, they're not contingent upon the lake use regulations. My suggestion would be to for you to approve the lake use regulation changes, except for this one section, and then let us go back to work on developing a plan for what we've just.
Then that would be a whole new resolution.
Right.
That'd be, I'm okay with that. So I amend my motion to approve the resolution as prepared with the exception of 4.01K.
okay, it's a good, second?
A second.
Second? Commissioner Cameron? All right, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I think it would be a good idea for, while we're talking about it, to give Dean clear guidance on where we want to land on this. So if I'm following the discussion correctly, we want to, when you make your application,
By November the 1st.
November 1st, what you have on that application, if you buy something, if you hadn't paid for all of that, however many boats you have there, by April 15th,
Be a good time, tax day.
that a good date?
Yep.
April
I
15th.
just wonder if that's too long. I think we should refer to the Lake Advisory Board Chairman,
What do you
who's
think?
waving his
I might
hand.
go the other direction on that, just because.
So maybe May 1?
Like I've got 7 permits and I don't put a ski boat in until right before Memorial Day, so sometimes I won't get those permits until right before Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
Why
Cash
is that?
flow. Cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cash flow situation.
All right.
And permits at $1,500.
What-
April 30th?
But that also doesn't, I'm okay with whatever you guys decide, but it also doesn't, if you wait too long, you're not giving the people that don't
Chance
have
to
permits
get-
enough.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
That's my feeling.
I like go to the 15th. I mean, by then, you're gonna know whether you're gonna buy them or not by the 15th.
April 15th?
Yep.
Well,
Tax
but,
day.
but we're saying purchase them by April 15th.
That's correct.
And that's what he's saying is not realistic for him and could be for other commercial owners and operators.
But then you got the other
I'll
side,
make it happen, whatever it is.
No, I mean, it's understandable, that could be an issue.
yeah, but you got the other ones that are waiting that have to wait to the last minute to.
Why don't we let them discuss it at the board and bring it back?
Y'all come up with it, y'all come up with a
You come
date.
with your.
Yeah, I confess it's your fault to
Yeah.
handle it.
Okay, but we'll come up with that date and that's,
They will.
But
You
we
are
have,
now
we have
charged
both,
with that
we have
meeting.
both considerations, in both directions, so.
Yeah,
All right. All right, and then Ron, you, I guess the next Marine Commission meeting, we'll have that on our agenda. Yes, sir. Okay, very good.
is there any, I don't guess there's no reason why we would need that decided before the next, scheduled meeting, is there? If it is, it'd be simple enough to take it up at the next council meeting, just have a brief
yeah,
commission meeting.
because we'll need to know for this year's season. so-
Well, why don't y'all offer a suggestion on that too, Mark, if you need it before the next commission meeting, the next scheduled Marine Commission meeting, let us know and we'll do it at the next council meeting.
Well, the next LAB meeting is the day before the next council meeting.
No, that won't work then, yeah.
So that wouldn't give time to get anything prepared, because we moved the LAB from the first Monday to the second Monday due to Easter holiday. So we meet the Monday before, council meets on Tuesday.
Well, they can always have a special meeting too. So, if they want to accomplish it in time, so, or
Well,
by
I
a
think it's
certain date.
important, I think it's important enough to accomplish it in time and get
Yeah.
it set.
So they could always call for a special meeting as well.
Just to ask the question here, if you guys are gonna make a motion, let's just say they give you an acceptable motion, does that have to be in the lake use regulations, or is that something that you can approve and it go into effect, and then at a later time, it gets added into the lake use regs? Because this has to be advertised
Yeah.
if we're gonna change it.
Well, personally, all policies should be in those lake use regulations, which is on the website and available to all the public. Right now, we have some obscure policies that aren't included, and I just talked to Commissioner Kilby about that prior to the meeting, and sent him an email I had to talk to y'all about that at the next board. So, that's where all the policies should be. So it should be in the form of a resolution.
Right, so that's kind of what I'm getting at. If the LAB talks about this next week, they can't just turn over and bring it back to you to say, yes, it goes in the policy. We have to advertise.
No
within
shortcut.
2 weeks.
Well, maybe this could, let me offer one suggestion. Ron, could we pass this tonight with,
Except,
with the changes we want to make, with the date to be determined by the LAB? Or a date to be determined within the next, month or two? Can we do that, or do we have to put the date in it tonight?
well, we don't know what to pass.
Yeah, that's right, we need the.
We need their recommendation before we know what to put in there to
I would
pass.
feel more
Yeah,
comfortable
Mr.
with the
Mayor.
recommended motion language.
Yeah,
But,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
Mark has something to say.
Mark?
Yeah, yeah.
It might be easier than that. I mean, you might be able to just, if you pass it with, if you say, hey, whatever permit you've asked for, when you come in to get your permit, whatever date that is, you've got to get them all. And if you don't get them all, whatever you don't get is forfeited on that date. Then you don't have to add a date to it.
We gotta add a deadline.
But again, how long are you gonna
Well,
wait? If they
anybody's
don't
doing
buy all their
business.
permits till June the 1st for some reason, then others lose out. So,
I mean, I think, we've always talked about it as kind of a year block. We've never really talked about it as right now. We've always said, hey, if they don't get it this year, then next year they can't, then they're limiting themselves to that for next year.
but didn't we already vote on that and pass it?
Yeah.
Just a while ago?
Yeah. Well,
So
Dean,
that's already passed what's there except for K.
just one question for Dean and Linda. Do we have any people out there, I'm aware of the one we're looking at tonight, but other than that is just waiting for a commercial that would miss out if we,
Not this year.
No, but
Okay.
you'll probably, with vacation rental, you'll probably have some,
yeah,
because that's full,
right,
unless we do something with the model and stuff.
right.
Well, we could even make this something that we work on to put in place by November 1st. And anybody that comes in between then, we still have hours that you're being presented with tonight, 2 boats that are asking for hours to be moved.
Yeah.
We could still work through to get.
But
through
we're
this
still
year.
letting the people that are trying to beat the system buy for another 10 months.
Well, if you approve them on if they come in and ask for a permit and ask for the hours to be moved, you're giving them that permission, by me moving hours in the mall.
But I'm saying the people that have asked for 4 and they only come for 3.
Right. Well, up until November 1st is when the next year model starts. I'm just trying to offer something that might.
We'll let the lake advisory.
Let's let the Lake Advisory come to us with a recommendation, and then we'll do what's the most time-efficient way to enact that.
If we have to have a special Marine Commission 30 minutes before next month,
We can do
it
that.
wouldn't be next month, but it'd be the May meeting, then that's what we'd need to do.
All right, we're satisfied with that? Okay. All right, let's move on to the next item, 7B. That's the revision of the commercial boat permit model. And this suggested motion is to amend the model, the 2018 model, to move 2% of the unused hours from the livery category of less than 10 horsepower to the livery category of greater than 10 horsepower, and this would allow 2 additional livery greater than 10 horsepower permits to be issued. So is there background on this? Is there some additional explanation, Dean, you want to offer to us before we plow ahead?
There's 3 requests. 2 of them are for rental boats, and then the motion or the one that I'm asking for is to approve moving the hours. This all ties together.
Right.
What I did was I went into the commercial model. I went to the livery less than 10 horsepower category, and I moved 2% of the allowed acres into the above 10 horsepower rental livery, and it gave enough room for them 2 boats to go into it. And it reduced the less than 10 horsepower, it reduced them from 16 boats down to 12 boats that are still available. And then it raised the above 10 horsepower to, I think there's room for a half a boat in there of the way I adjusted the model. There's still no extra room for a whole boat unless we move more hours.
How many less than 10 horsepower permits do we have?
We have, I think, 1 coming up now. I'm looking for Dan. Dan is getting ready to get a less than 10 horsepower, so that's the only one in the model for this year.
Have we had them in the model before?
We have.
How many have we had that you can remember in a single year?
Not a lot. I can't do you remember a number on that
Bob
list?
Washburn had some.
Bob Washburn used to build some and do things like that. He was kindly the main one in that less than 10 horsepower category. I don't believe there'll be an impact at what we're doing that would hinder less than 10 horsepower. We just haven't had a demand for that category in a while.
Yeah, so I guess really the question, irrespective of how many more permits we freed up, which in this case is 2, are we comfortable, is the council comfortable with the concept of moving some hours to create more opportunity for this category of boat on the lake? I guess that's our first question.
If I may, back in October, November, there was a lot of controversy about safety on the lake and the model being full and having been manipulated. And Dean and I had talked about that and going to do some research. And I don't think it had been manipulated the way people thought, but this is exactly what we were talking about, is you're moving hours from one category to another. And does that create in any way a safety hazard for the livery boats of greater than 10 horsepower? You're adding 2 more by moving these hours. Are we creating a safety hazard on the number of livery boats on the lake?
That would be a higher pay grade than me to actually do a study to see if that is. My gut instinct is 2 boats is not a big deal. If it was eliminating a category to create another category, you might be into some problems, but I don't know what the method to the madness behind creating the hours and how they work, how that would be, so I can't answer that question.
But this is, as we're talking about now, it's a living document. And you had a history of somebody earlier that was using it. Mr. Washburn early on had a desire to use this category. Since he's not doing that, now being a breathing and writing document, we need to adjust to current times, current standards.
And there's still room for 12 even after we move these hours, 12.6.
Correct.
And there's only been one, right?
Right.
Okay.
Most
the
we've had is
model-
5.
The models is designed to do small adjustments like this. You just don't want to do a major adjustment and create the hazard. I mean, these small adjustments to boats is kind of what the model was made to be able to do.
Okay.
Well, personally, I don't have a lot of confidence in the model to begin with.
Right.
And that's just my personal opinion. I think maybe we need to be considering is it time to look at something different from that.
Right,
From that standpoint.
absolutely.
You know.
All right, well, having had that discussion, anybody want to move forward this motion then?
Yeah. I'll make the motion that we amend the 2018 commercial boat permit model to move 2% unused hours from livery less than 10 horsepower to livery greater than 10 horsepower to allow for 2 additional livery greater than 10 horsepower.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Moore seconds. Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move on. Next item, 7C, lake commercial license for rent a livery boat. This suggested motion is for the issuance of one of the 2 licenses we've just created, and this one to Dan Brenneman for 1 motorized livery boat over 10 horsepower. So any discussion needed on this? Anybody want to offer then to move forward on this motion?
I make a motion to approve a 2018 lake commercial license for Dan Brenneman for 1 motorized rental livery boat over 10 horsepower.
All right. Second?
I'll second.
Second by, all right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, brings us to item D. Again, a lake commercial license for a livery, rent a livery boat. This suggested motion deals with an additional license for Byron Marsh with Lake Dog Properties for a motorized boat, rental livery boat over 10 horsepower. Similarly, if there's any discussion, there being none, someone want to advance the motion?
I'll make the motion, we approve the 2018 lake commercial license for Brian Marsh with Lake Dog Properties for 1 motorized rental livery boat.
All right, motion by Commissioner Cameron. A second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kilby. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
As a side note, all of these forms need to be updated. Regulations have changed, some of the categories have been deleted, the forms need to be updated.
All right, so noted. Okay, brings us to our final item of regular business. This is the town marina slips priority policy, and there is no motion suggested at this time. Is there any discussion on this? Anything, Dean, that you want to bring to us? I'm not quite sure then why this is on this.
It's me.
Motion for discussion for Commissioner Kilby.
I'm the one that asked
All right.
that we put this on here just to begin the discussion. You know, we're in the process of considering enlarging the marina and a lot of different things. And during the process of my studying all that, I asked what our current procedure is for assigning and permitting the marina slips. And as it turns out, the process we currently have is first come, first serve. And I was, as I think I said in our special meeting last week, I found out that was decision was made that be our procedure by the former town manager without any approval from the Marine Commission or town council. And my personal feeling is that I think that our tax-paying citizens that live in the town limits and pay taxes to support this town and this lake should be the ones that have first priority for slips for that marina. And so I have been doing some work on that with Dean and with Linda, and hopefully we will be able to put something together to present, hopefully if we need to have a special meeting or whatever to do that. Right now, for this year, it's pretty much full, but we do have 24 tax-paying citizens that are on the waiting list that do not have a slip, and we have 23 non-resident
Slip holders. That
slip
have
holders
slips, yep.
that do have slips. So I don't think that's I don't think that's the proper way. Just my opinion.
If I may add, we should not, in my opinion, distinguish between tax-paying citizens that live in the town because all of our tax-paying citizens are technically residents for the purposes of purchasing permits, whether they live in town or not. And therefore, residents, period, should come first. I agree, non-residents second.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think property owner, tax-paying citizens should be first.
well,
If the second, but my personal opinion, second, if it's residents, I agree with that. You know, that's someone that lives in town, renting an apartment or a house or something like that. But I don't think those people should come before the tax-paying citizens in the town.
well, if they're tax-paying, they are residents.
But I misunderstood what you said then. I thought you said someone who is a resident that's not paying taxes should be in.
That was based on your first comment. I was responding to your first comment.
Okay, well,
Where
then
you
I.
said tax-paying citizens that live within the town.
Well,
And we should not make that
Okay,
distinction.
let me clarify it again, okay? If you don't live in this town and you're not paying taxes, you shouldn't have a slip before somebody that lives outside this town limits.
I agree.
Is that simple enough?
We agree. You just didn't like my wording.
The way the slips have filled up now, when we built this marina, it took a couple of years to fill the marina. So it was first come, first served, so you do have, non-residents that have slips there. With what you just said, I'm just trying to clarify here, are you saying that the people that are in the marina now renting slips that are not residents here should be moved out, and residents that are on the waiting list should be moved in?
Not this year.
Not this year?
That's not been decided. We've not had a discussion about it. But that very well could be something that happens.
That'd be part of the discussion. We'd have to weigh that, and somebody that's maybe had a slip there for
They're-
9 years or 8 years.
They're all full now, and it's done for this year, but we do have 24 tax-paying
Right,
citizens that
okay.
would like to have a slip that don't have one.
So,
Make sure I knew where the.
so is the notion that then we're referring this to the Lake Advisory Board
Well,
for
I'm-
consideration?
I mentioned it at Lake Advisory meeting this past meeting, so we'll,
And then bring it to maybe the
Well,
next meeting
yeah.
with a proposal? to-
So we're tasking the Lake Advisory Board to take this issue up.
That's what
Okay,
I
yeah,
think that's
right.
where we're heading here.
So I make
You
that
did-
motion.
Make that motion?
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor? Opposed,
You
same
did
sign.
hear that while your head was down, Mr. Chairman. You've been tasked with that.
Good,
Another one.
I got that one.
Okay. Want to make sure.
very good. All right, well, that brings us to the end of the business meeting, and if there's no further business, is there? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner,
I know we're gonna talk about, changing meeting times at town council. Of course, that would, if we move town council meetings to 5 o'clock in the future, that means we're gonna have to move these to 4 o'clock. So it may be that we would want to discuss that just briefly,
Discuss
or,
and make a motion?
yeah, or at least consider it now before, instead of having to wait till.
Well, our town council agenda item is town council and Marine Commission meeting time change.
Yeah, right.
So
I
it's
was
both of
aware of
them,
that,
so,
but I just
right.
didn't know that it might need to be mentioned
in these
in
minutes.
this meeting, in these minutes before we adjourn.
So at least the town council then has the
Yeah.
benefit of the, what agreement, even though we're the same people, we're a
Right.
different board when we meet like this, so.
Well, this was something that I brought before the board for several reasons. I think from a staff standpoint, we will be getting staff out of here earlier if we move this up. I think probably that's the primary reason for doing that. And if us not being here any later than we have to be is an issue too, you know. So I don't, we have committees that meet now all different times during the day. I know other boards in the county that meet at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and different times like that. So I don't think from our standpoint that would be an issue. There are a few of us, me included, that still have a job and support the economy of Lake Lure, other than drawing a check and stuff like that.
Let's not be,
So that's primarily the reason for that. And if it doesn't work and it becomes a problem, it can always be changed again.
First of all, I want to thank you for contributing, because I like my social security check to come every month.
Well, I was directly directing that to you.
I need
You and I are working into this thing.
Exactly.
But I guess if we don't have, nobody here has an issue with it, it might be good to just, to make a resolution or a motion or something to that effect, so we have it in the record that, we're fine with moving the meetings to
Well,
4
first of
o'clock.
all, it's not on our agenda.
Well, what about second of all?
Second of all, it's on the council agenda for both
Okay.
boards.
Well, maybe we could just, maybe it's a good idea just to let the
let the
note
record show
reflect
that we don't have any objection to
that
it.
nobody here objected.
That'd be
Yeah,
good.
that sounds good.
Okay, now,
Okay.
we had the motion for
I
adjournment.
never got a second.
We get a second, I'm sure we get a
Second.
second. There he goes, to Commissioner Weber, seconds that.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
That was his fault if he